Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to give some context into today's episode. My guest today was involved with one of the most profound channeling experiences ever recorded. My guest today, Jim McCarty, who was involved with a channeling group who also investigated meditation. During one of these sessions, a woman named Carla went deep into a meditation, unconscious and into a trance. While she was in trance, a voice came through who identified themselves as Ra. Ra later went on to explain that those of sixth density could manipulate her vocal cords and communicate with them. The book series, The Ra Contact, Teaching the Law of One, is Don Elkins asking questions to those of Ra, those of sixth density, and receiving answers through Carla's voice. Jim was present at each of these sessions, sitting in meditation, picturing Carla in love and light for the duration of the session. The Ra Contact is a volume of books which discusses the origination of the Earth, the solar system, and the physical universe itself, not to mention the origination of the tarot and even how the pyramids were built. Today, I'm lucky enough to have a conversation with Jim. Welcome to the show, everyone. This week I have a very special guest with me. He's one of the narrators for one of the books that really changed my life, and I get asked a lot from students and patients what's a good book to read, and at least 9.9 times out of 10 I would always refer to the Ra Contact. And today we are lucky enough to have the narrator himself, Jim McCarty, join us. So welcome, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Jim, I'd like the listeners to get to know you and have a deeper sense of connection to who you are and how your background influences your viewpoints on what we're going to cover today. Can you share an overview of what has shaped you as a man and what led you to putting so much time and research into meditation, the paranormal, and how the Ra Contact came to be?
Well, I guess it starts back when I was in college. I had majored in business and economics, and I went back for another major in sociology. I just couldn't figure out if I really wanted to spend the rest of my life making money because my mom and dad were in the grocery store business. They were part of a chain that was located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in northern United States. And it was expected for most of the time I went through college that when I got my degree, I would join the company and begin rising up in the ranks, earning more money, having more responsibilities.
Corporate ladder. Yep.
And I decided at that time I joined what was known here as the hippie revolution. I didn't want to be part of earning money for the rest of my life. So what I did instead, I joined the Teacher Corps, which is a lot like Peace Corps, but it works with the low-income areas in different parts of the United States. So I moved down to Gainesville, Florida, and took a couple of courses at the University of Florida. And they gave us some ideas about how to work with kids in the follow-through program. They had already been in kindergarten, they'd already been through the Head Start program that was supposed to give them a head start, but they found that it didn't really do it. So they developed the follow-through program to work with kids grades 1 through 3. So I was part of that. And then eventually we moved to Jacksonville, Florida, after we'd taken our classes at the University of Louisville in Florida in Gainesville. And we each had a chance to work with kids for a while in the classrooms. And there were a few of us that were kind of disappointed with how the uh, the teaching was going on, so that everybody had to learn the same thing at the same time. We thought that maybe it was better to try to individualize the education. So
Mm.
they let us have our own classroom if we took what they called the incorrigibles, those kids that wanted to think for themselves. They didn't want to do what they were told. So that's what we started with, and over the next year and a half, we had pretty good success. These kids had talents that had not been brought out when they had to try to learn the same thing over and over every day.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that is what really got me started on, I guess you'd say, my spiritual journey. Uh, at the end of that, though, after I got my master's degree in education, I decided that the kids actually had more energy than I did, and that it might be better if I found something else to do. So I had been communicating with a fellow in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado at 10,000 feet, and he had what was called the Adventure Trail Survival School. And what he did there was we all had lean-tos that we built ourselves out of the site of our base camp, and we worked with dreams. And if we let our subconscious mind know that we wanted to hear a message from our subconscious mind or a higher self that could help us to reprogram some of the behaviors that we had learned when we were kids, something like, you need to pay attention, you need to obey, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. And the fellow at the survival school said that this kind of put a block on the natural function of the brain to move energy from the old root stem, the back of your brain, to the frontal lobes of your brain, to the third eye, or the indigo ray chakra, it's now called in the raw contact. So I was able to do that, and I found that, as he said, there were two or three blocks there in my past when I was usually 7 years old or younger when these programs are made to fit in. Um, then they suggested that after you discover one or two of these blocks, that you choose one of the other students or the attendees that we were there at that time to play the role of the person who programmed you, whether it was your mom or your dad, a neighbor, a teacher, or whoever. And then this time, as you relived what you remembered in the dream, that you knew you had the right to stand up for yourself, because when it happened to you, you didn't know that right. So you shout, you scream, your heart say, no, that's not what I'm going to do. And so after two or three of these experiences, then he said it was possible to have the awakening of the frontal lobes, the indigo ray energy center. And that happened for me on July 12th, 1972. So after that, his basic philosophy was, uh, all my students now, I want you all to go out, each one teach one, go buy your own land in the country, somewhere that you're in primal nature, because these dreams work better when you're not in the hubbub of the cities and all the noise of the cars and things going on.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to find some land in central Kentucky. At that time, it was 132 acres back up a creek. And it cost $6,000, which was pretty cheap. And
Mm.
I built my own log cabin, and I grew most of my own food, and I had an orchard, and I kept bees. So at some point, that was part of the hippie revolution, was to move back to the country and to simplify, as Ralph Waldo Emerson said. So there were others like me around, and we couldn't all grow our own food, uh, build a home, and homeschool our kids. So we got together in a food co-op, and it was the Federation of Ohio River Co-ops. It was based in Columbus, Ohio, and we met once a month in Columbus and talked about how to do all of those things, how to grow your own food. And at one of the meetings where we were placing our orders, I discovered that there was an interview. Actually, I have to backtrack here a little bit. I didn't have any power. I was off the grid. I didn't have any
Okay.
electricity or water. So I did have a battery-powered radio, and I think it was in May of 1979. I just happened to have it tuned into WKQQ radio in Lexington, Kentucky. And Don Elkins and Carla Ruckert were being interviewed on the topic of UFOs, but they weren't talking about the shape of the UFO or this, how fast it could go. They were talking about the extraterrestrial intelligence, the beings in there. They were talking about the one great thought of love that created the universe, which is the one infinite creator, or some people can call it God or spirit or whatever. And that fascinated me. So at one of our co-ops meetings to place an order, I mentioned that to some friends of mine, and they said, "Well, we know Don and Carla. We're part of their meditation group. So if you like, we could introduce you to them." So they did, and over a period of time, I drove up to Louisville. It was a 70 mile there and 70 miles back, and I attended meditations on Sundays. Mostly, those were the ones that where you got to ask a lot of questions about what you felt was the most important thing in your spiritual journey or the problems you were having, and the answers were just amazing. So during the week, they also held other meditations where you could learn how to channel. So eventually, I did learn how to channel, and eventually, um, on January 15th, 1981, the Raw Contact began. And that was how I came to be part of the Raw Contact.
Wow, that's incredible. And what was it that drew you to that initially? What resonated with you?
To the Oh, well, the information itself. I was the scribe,
Okay.
so after every session, we had them recorded on tape recorders. We had three tape recorders going at the same time, just to be sure if one or two went bad, we would always have a copy. So I transcribed it. Um, the first, oddly enough, I was not present at the first raw channeling because I knew that you had to have three people there, and Don and Carlo were there teaching a student from our Sunday night meditation how to channel. So I went out shopping for
Right.
groceries, and when I got back, I didn't realize it, but I was walking in on the first raw contact.
Oh wow.
And in session 1.9, if you look at Ross says we must deepen this instrument's concentration. And that was when I walked in. So I went back into the kitchen, put the groceries away. And after the contact was done, Don came back into the kitchen and said, "This is it. This is it. This is what we've been waiting 19 years for. Could you transcribe this right
Wow.
away?" And I said, "Right away?" He said, "Yes, yes, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for." So I went into my electric typewriter and I began transcribing. And Don was out in the hallway waiting eagerly for each page that came out. And as I transcribed more and more, I discovered we hadn't ever heard anything like this. It had so many layers of meaning to it. It was so inspirational.
Yeah.
So that's how I came into the rock context sort of accidentally.
Yeah, I came onto it. I think I just had a random credit on Audible and I just saw this. I heard a bit of the sample and within 10 seconds it just my internal truth buzzer just rang.
Yeah.
And it's funny listening to your voice now. I'm just hearing the book as well. And I've probably listened to it no less than 10 or 11
Wow.
times. And it for me it awakens a deep remembering
Yeah.
on some level, not necessarily a learning per se. It's like, oh, that's right, and it just there's a just talks to you. So, Jim, can you explain the type of channeling that's being used to make this contact and the significance of the channeler being unconscious versus conscious?
Yes, this is something that is very unusual. Conscious channeling is something that's it's telepathic, that you're receiving the information at a certain level of experience. Uh, we were always told by, Ra was a member of the Confederation of Planets in the service to the Infinite Creator. And they always said that they thought the best ratio for conscious channeling was 70% their thoughts and 30% yours in order to give you credit for your spiritual journey where it has been successful. So that's conscious channeling. Now, there is some trance channeling, such as Jane Roberts did with Seth, where you are not getting so much telepathic, although it is coming from a deep portion within your own being, probably your higher self or a guide, or but you're there in your body, and if you wanted to, you could stop the channeling. Now, the channeling of Ra that Carla did was something different. She was not in her body. She left her body by some means which we never really understood for sure, but she was with Ra, and we later discovered that she was in the fifth dimension of the inner planes of Earth. And so for her, Ra used her body, her lips, to make the answers to Dawn's questions. And for her, it was like going to sleep and waking up. She never knew what had happened. And so that was something that I think she probably, I don't know, is a gift of hers. I can't really explain it any way but better than that. I think it was you're probably pre-incarnatedly chosen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I can't remember the name of the uh, some kind of testing scale where they measure the accuracy of the channel, and most channels come in at about somewhere between 60 to 80%, but Ra came in at something like 98, 99% to be accurate, which I don't know, has there been anything like that since on any
Not
level?
to my knowledge. I mean, it might have happened
Yeah,
someplace else or sometime else, but I'm not
yeah,
aware of it.
okay.
Rod did
So
say,
Jim,
though,
right?
that back about 3,000 years ago, there was a pharaoh in Egypt, Akhenaten, that Akhenaten and his brother Smenkara and let's see, Akhenaten, Smenkara, and Nefertiti together formed a group, and Akhenaten was the channel, and Ra channeled through them, and Akhenaten decreed the law of one as the law of the land in Egypt, but his priests were only giving lip service to it. So when he passed away, they went back to the worship of many gods. And that was one of
Uh,
the reasons that another reason that Ra wanted to find another source to channel through to make reparations for what they considered their naivete.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I do remember Ra speaking about that now. So Ra talks a lot about densities. So can you tell us what Ra is referring to regarding like a density and the difference between or differences between dimension and a density?
Well, basically, there's no difference. There are two
Okay.
ways of describing the same thing. I think density is more accurate. What they're talking about is the amount of light that is in each succeeding density. There is more light in the fourth density of love and understanding than there is in our third density. There's more light in the fifth density of wisdom than there is in the fourth density of love. And then in the sixth density, where wisdom and love are blended, there is more light there as well. And in the seventh density of foreverness, there is a lot more light. And eventually, all the light in the octave of densities coalesces once again into the infinite creator, and the whole process starts again.
Mm. So with the densities, the first density you're referring to, that's the Earth. Um, oh, brain farting now. Wind, water,
Yeah.
Earth,
Earth,
fire.
wind, fire, and water. Yeah, Ross said in the
Yeah.
first density, uh, it's actually the ending of the previous octave of densities. Everything is earth, wind, fire, and water blowing and burning incandescently in a timeless
Yep.
fashion. But at some point, time begins, and the earth and the water are taught by fire and wind to form what we call Mother Earth so they could support life. And it's a very basic awareness. And then in the second density, there is an acceleration of that awareness into the mind and the body of animals and plants so that they have a greater awareness of the creator. And then in the third density, the spirit is added. And this is a natural process for most of us. Rob mentioned that one of the ways that can be seen today is when we have pets, and there's a bond of love between us and the second density pet. And that love grows for us by the pet, for the pet by us, and eventually the spirit is awakened in the pet. So it becomes the third density entity in its next incarnation.
Yeah. So we every I guess every entity goes through this process on some level,
Right. Yeah.
and we're just in the third density at the moment, but we are transitioning from third into fourth density, and from that you need a catalyst, right?
Right.
So many of the issues of the world today, be it climate change, pandemics, bioethics, etc., they're shaping many beliefs and perceptions around the world. So how many of these do you think are a part of that transition into fourth density?
Well, I think that all of them can play a role in that transition. Some of them because of being in harmony with the way the unity of the creation is manifested in each being and in what they do. But some of them, like pandemics and earth changes, the weather changes, uh, have a different way of helping us grow. They give us challenges of how to deal with it, how to try to help Mother Earth with the weather that's difficulty, or to help those that are affected by tornadoes or uh, fires or flooding. It gives us a chance to be of service to others and help them get food, shelter, clothing, whatever it is that they need after going through these difficulties. So sometimes the difficulties also manifest within ourselves as we have some sort of a disease or we're affected by flooding, and we need to use that as food for growth, as catalyst, is what Ra called it, because it
Hmm.
requires us to change our point of view and the nature of our being, to move closer into unity with the Creator. But sometimes that change is difficult and it is painful, and we have to go through that and see it and work with it and balance it so we can see that it has a purpose in our life. It is the way that we can grow. And even if it's painful, it's well worth the effort, because, like in weightlifting, no pain, no gain. So if we can use that catalyst, and Ross suggested the way that we could use the catalyst is to see the opposite. If we're feeling a great deal of anger at somebody, or somebody's feeling anger at us, then we need to see the balance of that. We see it the way it happened and the way we felt it, and we intensify it until it's very, very large. And then for just a moment, we image the opposite. So the anger is balanced by love, and we let that love by itself get just as large as the anger. And then we accept ourselves for having both of those, the love and anger, within us. And that is another means by which we become the creator, because if we can work with that catalyst and eventually learn that we are all things, just like the creator is all things and has made all things to help us know itself, then, or help it to know itself, then we can know more about our own spiritual journey as we become more and more a 360-degree being, just like the creator is everything, and everything has been created by the creator to help it know itself.
I mean, there's always a choice in any moment,
That's right.
right? We
That's
can
right.
choose to be victim to it, or we can, as you said, we can get to know it, we can accept it, and then learn to love it as part of one being everything.
Yes, the choice is the reason we're all here in the third density, is to make that choice of attempting to be of service to others, no matter what the situation has brought about in our lives, at least
Mm.
51% of the time. If we can do that, then we're doing what I'll call pointing the needle in the service to others direction. And if we could all do it on planet Earth at some point, then we could become a social memory complex like Ra was on the planet Venus. So that's the great goal.
The great goal. And Bragg gives precise yet detailed explanation on things like the origination of the tarot and the Great Pyramids and essentially the history of our planet and the solar system. How do you think the world would be different today if that was actually taught in schools?
Uh, it would be an amazing place. I mean, it would be a spiritual adventure for everyone. People would need to wake up to the fact that we are here to become spiritually seeking and being awake spiritual seekers, to know that there's more to our life than the world around us, more to life than getting a college degree, getting a good job, making a lot of money, being well respected in the community, having children, and playing tennis on weekends. It would be an amazing situation.
Yeah, it's you. Your story kind of parallels mine to a degree because I remember being in school and I wasn't good at school. I'm not good at sitting in a square box and just remembering stuff. And so that's just not how I learnt, but I was made to feel really stupid at school.
Yeah.
And until I went out and traveled and did my own, let's call rite of passage, is when I found my individual genius or the things that I'm good at and interested at. And it wasn't until I found that, gave myself permission to do that and go against the grain of the corporate and all the things that we're supposed to do, quote unquote. And that's when I really came alive. That's when just my heart led. And once I got into the habit of allowing that to happen, it just, everything's just easier
Yeah.
as well. It's not heavy. So, Jim, L&L Research has several books regarding channeling and wonders. I know there's a lot of people out there with a sense of feeling lost, alone, or not quite fitting in. I was certainly one of those. And I remember reading in the Wanderer's Handbook, this could be a sign that they could be a fourth, fifth, or sixth density wanderer. Could you expand on that for us?
Yes, wanderers are entities who have gone through our third density experience and have been able to share that love and light of the Creator at least 51% of the time. And so many of them are from, actually, Ross said very few are from the fourth density because it takes a lot of bravery or foolhardiness to be able to come here and go through the veil of forgetting. But there are some fourth density. Amazingly enough, Jesus was one of those, and probably the most well known and most spiritually aware entity of fourth density that I've ever heard of. And the fifth density and sixth density are where most of them from. And Ra said actually most wanderers are from the sixth density. Ra worked with those of Egypt, and there was another group of wanderers that worked with those of Atlantis, and another group of wanderers, sixth density, that worked with some in South America. So most wanderers are from the sixth density, and they also have to go through the veil of forgetting. They become just about the same as every other third density being, except they do have a little bit more activation of the spirit complex that gives them a little more feeling that they are somehow different. Um, and a lot of wanderers do have that feeling to the point that they're pretty sure that they're not from here and that they do have a mission. And they become more and more aware of being members of the brothers and sisters of sorrow that have come here to reach their hand back and being of service to others. And then there are some that know that, well, there's something different about me, but I'm not sure what it is, but I don't think I'm from here. And then there's another group that have no real feeling of being different, but they are. So when any kind of a feeling of being different uh, comes around for a person that feels that they might be different, then that kind of awakens them to the purpose of their mission. And each wanderer has certain talents that they can share, uh, whether it is philosophical, uh, something in the way of simply uh, being a member of the food kitchen and feeding hungry people, or if they write books, or if they love to play music that's inspirational, or singing. There's all kinds of different talents that they bring. And so a lot of times, uh, wanderers who really don't know that they're wanderers still have those talents. They share them with others and they accomplish the same mission. So I think a lot of wanderers do have difficulty, though, because besides that feeling of being a wanderer or being different, also they have the feeling of this isn't home. this is someplace I'm not really sure I ought to be
Yeah.
here because it's not like I remember somehow where I'm from.
Mm,
So
yeah.
sometimes that can lead to difficulties that need some
Mm.
kind of attention, maybe like the balancing exercises that I mentioned, so that they can accept this feeling of not being home, not things not being quite right. So the wanderers fill a wide spectrum of behavior and thoughts and feelings, and most of the time they are able to be of service to others, whether they know they're a wanderer or not.
Yeah, I see patients all the time. It's almost like a energetic resonance. You can tell very quickly if someone, let's say, isn't from here, so to
Correct.
speak. And when they explain their troubles, it's all you're hearing is, I just don't fit in. I'm not from
Yeah.
here. I'm a tourist or I'm a foreigner. I don't know how to act or blend into the local culture here. But then they might be socially like that. But then they write the most amazing poetry, or they can sing unbelievably, or paint something just mind blowing. And some people really embrace that. But then for some people, that goes so against the cultural, societal, or the family norm that they suppress it. And that's what I see clinically is typically can end up as depression, anxiety. Um, I mean, pick your poison, right? It can manifest in a myriad of different ways. But Jim, in many channelings, meditation, and even coaching slash therapy circles today, they discuss many, let's call it governing laws, such as law of attraction, law of confusion, etc. Ra talks about the law of one. Can you explain to us these laws and how they relate to our experiences?
Well, the law of one is a simple statement that the creator of intelligent infinity has created everything that there is. Everything that you think is something else, a table, a car, a mountain, a stream, is the creator in one form or another. So all of these forms of the creator allow the creator to know itself in some way. And that is why the whole creation exists. So the creator can know more about itself. And through every free will choice that we make, the creator knows itself. And then I would guess that the free will, though, is the first real law that came into being because before there was any creator, the creator was sort of everything that was not formed. It was before the beginning of any thing. And eventually the creator came into being and decided that it wanted to know itself. And this is the free will. It was the creator's will to know itself that allowed it to feel love and create love as a means by which it could focus its free will through love and create light so that this light could then condense into photons and protons and neutrons vibrating at various angles and speeds of rotation to create what we call physical matter of planets, of stars, of rivers, of lakes, of people, of dogs and cats. Everything is light vibrating at various angles and speeds of rotation. So then the law of attraction, I am not aware of that being used by Ra, but I think that that could be, this is just my opinion, that it could be what we pre-incarnatively choose to learn in our incarnations after we go through the veil of forgetting. We have these choices of how we want to learn to love more, to accept ourselves, to be of service. There are a lot of different ways. Each of us is a unique spiritual seeker of truth. And that truth is probably what we are trying to attract to ourselves through the subconscious mind. I believe very likely the high priestess is our subconscious mind that puts a little bias on our experiences that we have. So we see them in the way that we hoped we would see them when we were making these choices. And you could take
Mm.
3 or 4 different people that had made choices and look at one situation and get 3 or 4 different interpretations of that because we all are unique seekers and we have unique ways of learning from a similar catalyst or difficulty.
Do you know, Jim, do you know the concept of soul contracts or sacred contracts?
I've heard of it, and I think it's something that we do with our higher self. Make a
Yeah, so there's a Yogananda and a Carolyn Miss kind of same different version where essentially you make pre-incarnative choices with other souls or other
Okay, yeah,
contracts. And if one of your lessons coming into this plane is forgiveness, let's say, well, you're going to need someone to forgive. So you make a contract with another soul and, you arrange the time, date, we'll come to you, I'll meet you when you're 25. You're going to go through these experiences, I'll go through mine, and those catalysts are going to propel us in a certain direction so we can meet. Now, when we meet, we're going to fall in love, and I'm going to break your heart into 1,000 pieces. That's your opportunity to forgive.
right.
So it doesn't make a lot of earthly sense from a rational mind perspective, but it transcends that into a soul lesson. And what essentially we're coming here to learn is to learn the truth of ourselves, which is kind of one being everything. And there's two quotes that stood out in my mind while you were talking. First was from St. Francis of Assisi, who said, "What you're looking for is what's looking." And
Yeah,
I would love people just to meditate on that and the whole creation learning about itself constantly is unconditional love creates conditions to love itself unconditionally.
right.
And yeah, a lot of people don't, it's hard for them to conceptualize that. But I guess at the end of the day, at the start of the day as well, if everything is one, that's essentially what's happening.
Yes, I think Ra referred to that something like the mirroring effect. What you're seeing in somebody else is what you're really seeing in yourself. So if you blame somebody else
Yeah,
for doing something wrong to you, you're really blaming
yeah,
yourself because
yeah.
we're all one.
Uh, That's, I mean, exactly what Carl Jung said. Every time you point the finger at someone, you've still got three fingers pointing back at yourself. And a lot of people don't like that,
Yeah.
you could say. Jim, Ra often mentions the one infinite creator we've spoken about and thought. So many people view that as God, Jesus, Allah, Krishna, Muhammad, Buddha, Source, amongst a myriad of other names or titles. Can you tell us what Ra is referring to?
Well, I think that basically that would be correct. The one infinite creator, some people would call it God or Spirit or many other names, but they're talking about the creative force, the one great original thought of love that made everything that there is out of itself. And various entities like Jesus or Buddha or Lao Tzu or other advanced spiritual beings have traveled a little further or quite a bit further along that path than we have and have gotten closer to becoming the creator. So I think that this is something that some people call enlightenment experiences. Uh, and they are able to see more of the connections of everything as being the one creator. And they're kind of moving a little further along the staircase than we have.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I've spoken to many people, and many of the people I see on some level have they see a god or a Jesus or whatever their cosmic version of that is as someone who's out there, someone who's in the sky looking down on them and
Right.
judging
Yeah.
their every movement. And then they think, because I ate a chocolate bar, I'm going to go to hell or whatever their story
Yeah.
is. And it's if it's from a source energy, how can it be judgment? Because a judgment requires a relative experience, but then the creator comes here for that relativity. But without the relativity, it goes back into non-dualism, which is just oneness with everything. So if it's one with everything, there can't be any judgment. So a judgment has to be a man-made thing.
Right.
Yeah. Jim, L&L research is still channeling to this day. Is there a message from higher densities for humanity today?
Well, I think the basic message has always been that we need to meditate as our tool for discovering more of the nature of ourself as being the creator, because through meditation, we come into contact with that still small voice that is the creator, that sometimes speaks to us in thoughts too deep for words. And after a meditation where we've made some sort of contact with the creator, then there's very likely going to be some synchronistic opportunities for us to be of service to others, which is the reason why we're here on planet Earth, is to try to be of service to others every way we possibly can. Whenever we're out walking on the street, we see somebody who's tripped and fallen, help them get up. Somebody who's shopping groceries, they've dropped some, help them get up. Um, I take my neighbor's newspaper every morning up to the door and put it there so he doesn't come out in the rain or the wind or the cold. Little things like that. Or sometimes you do something that's big. You become a doctor and you find a cure for a disease that has never been found before. So we just need to remember that meditation can give us that hint, that direction to follow for the day, maybe for the rest of our lives, or maybe just for the few moments after we're out of meditation. Um, we can just look at it as a light that shines from the Creator through our heart and through our mind to give us the direction to go for the day or for the rest of our lives.
Powerful. We've spoken about service to others. There's also service to self. Can you just quickly explain that for us?
Service to self seems to be the choice that goes in symphony or harmony with the seeming separation that we all think is the way life is. But it takes it quite a bit further. They separate from other selves in the hope that they can control other selves, that they can gain their power by making another self their slave. So this is a path that Ross suggested was um, acceptable to the Creator because the Creator blinks neither at the light nor the dark, the service to self or the service to others. So they also can form social memory complexes, which is what we're all hoping to do in a positive sense here on planet Earth, and move forward into the fourth density of love and understanding. And yet, the fourth density or the fifth density for the service to self entities involve an increasing level of control over others so that they control many others of their, you might call them slaves or minions, that they themselves will attempt to do that same controlling to gain more power. But when we get to the fourth density, there is a kind of a battle, Ross suggested, where uh, it is fought by those who have made the grade of 95% service to self and only 5% service to others. And they fight among themselves until everybody agrees who's on top because it's obvious. And then they move on through to the fifth density, the wisdom density, and they continue doing the same things. Sometimes there are negatively oriented wanderers that come back. Ra wouldn't name any of them for us, but they said they do come back. They hazard the veil of forgetting because they would have to go through that too. But if they can come
Mm.
back and remember that they are negatively oriented, they can do the same thing, control others here, and maybe more easily because in our seeming separation of third density, it looks like that's the natural way to be, to gain political power, to gain military power, to gain whatever kind of power, religious power, and make others obey and follow that same path. But when they get to the sixth density of the balance between love and wisdom, then there's a problem because the sixth density requires that each person see everyone else as the creator, that there's no more veil of forgetting. And the fifth density the fifth density service to self entities have that sense of, well, if this is the way it needs to be, then I will reverse my polarity. And they can do that. They don't have to go back and start over. They are wise. They know this is the way to go. So then they also become positively oriented. And this polarity of positive and negative is a tool by which entities can move forward into unity with the Creator. But it is only used up until the middle of the sixth density. After that point, there is no polarity. And all become more and more one, especially as they get into the seventh density of foreverness. And that is the density that Ross said that their teachers are there, and they are still learning how they are one with the Creator, with every moment of their being and every choice that they make.
So we're currently in third density, which is essentially conscious becoming aware of itself. Going into fourth density is love and compassion. Fifth density is light and wisdom. And then sixth density is where I remember Ra saying, "All there are no paradoxes; they're all
Right.
solved," which is the unity. Seventh density is the foreverness, and then there's a new octave, but we're not
Right.
quite sure what that's about just yet.
Well, Ross said that yeah, it's a mystery for sure. They said all begins
Yeah,
and ends in mystery, but the octave is
yeah,
something that our scientists, I think, are calling the black hole, where
aha,
everything coalesces into the one infinite creator, or what they see, what the scientists see as the black hole. And then that time of blowing and burning incandescently is the result of that, and the whole process starts over again. And apparently, it's been going on forever and will continue going on forever.
mm. Well, the creator's got nothing else to do except to
Right,
know itself, right?
right, yeah. Create universes.
And one of the things I love about the Ra Contact is everything in that book is, well, a lot of the things mentioned in the book are now being proven by science. So it's actually it's measured, it's countable, it's tangible now. And some of the monuments in South America I know have just recently been unearthed as well, like precisely as Ra mentioned in the book. So it's well ahead of its time. And I do thank you, well, all three of you, but for you, Jim, I really appreciate your time, but also the energy that you put into making that and making it become available for people like myself and just wanting to share that with everyone else. Jim, feel free to share any final comments or resources, contact information, or services that you, LL Research, offer as we close the podcast.
Well, as you know, we have various uh, audio books for people that want to listen to the book, for the Raw Contact, or for Secrets of the UFO, or for Carla's channeling of the Holy Spirit, or her poetry. And I've just finished recording the Law of One 102, the outer work, and 103, the inner work. So all of these and every book that has ever been written or recorded as an audiobook are available for free at llresearch.org. in the form of downloads, PDF downloads.
Amazing. Can't wait for that to come out. Jim, thanks very much. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for everything that you're doing and that you continue to do. I'll leave you in the love and the light.
Well, thank you so
I don't
much.
know.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and I just love talking about the law of one to anybody who wants to ask a question. And of course, everything I say is my opinion.
Thanks, Jim.
You've been listening to the Body's Compass podcast with Matt Sorensen and today's guest, Jim McCarty. If you want to find out more, give us a follow on Instagram at The Body's Compass or swing by heelhub.net. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.